Hello everyone, Simon Jacobson here. Meaningful Live, our special Bible series, the best-selling book of all time, applying the narratives, stories, characters, and personalities to our personal, emotional, psychological, and spiritual lives. So today we shall address a very vital and critical topic that affects us all. It's titled, The Golden Calf. A lesson on betrayal and reconciliation. A lesson on betrayal and reconciliation. Is there hope after loss? Can we expect to rebuild after we have been hurt? After trust has been violated? One of the most difficult challenges in life is when in some way someone has hurt you, and sometimes you feel irreparably so. This program is dedicated by Yitzchak Weiner in honor of the 85th birthday of his father, Emmanuel ben Yitzchak Halevi Weiner. So, though these are topics we prefer not to speak about, we prefer they shouldn't happen, but they do. And as a result, we are all often left shattered. Whether it's spouses in a loving marriage, suddenly you find out that your spouse has in some way betrayed you, has been unfaithful. Whether it's friends, whether it's business partners, whether it's anyone that in some way you've had a relationship with. This can be abuse, parents and children. I mean, any relationship where you expected something better and then in some way that has been breached. How do you deal with that? So, there's usually two approaches that most people take. One, let's start with the denial approach, which is we ignore it. We ignore it. We go into denial, we find excuses, we minimize it, we blame ourselves. We basically take the abuse and we overlook, we swallow it. Now, in some instances that may have value because sometimes, especially if it was not a breach of a fundamental one, maybe it was a mistake, and you find out, and you can somewhat deal with that. But if it's a more serious type of breach, one that can happen time and again and repeat itself, then what you're really doing is just allowing yourself to become a doormat, where you allow yourself to be completely hurt and violated, what they call the Stockholm Syndrome, where people who have been abused, they start becoming dependent on their abuser. This you find with, unfortunately, domestic violence. You find it in other forms of hostage-taking, where you identify with the person that's abusing you, and sometimes you feel you're so worthless that you deserve it. Or you're so worthless that you're not even worth fighting for, even fighting for yourself. As sad as that may be, that is a fact of life. There are people who really feel that they are not deserving of anything more than being hurt. It can go back to their childhoods. It could be their own personal destruction of their own dignity and self-esteem. Many ways to analyze it. So that's one approach. The other approach, of course, is the other extreme. You hurt me, I'm out of here. There is no second chance. There's no hope. There's no forgiveness. And it's over with. Now, again, there are instances, especially when you're talking about a serial trust betrayer, whatever word you want to call it, someone that continuously does so and just and keeps on begging for forgiveness, but really they just go back to their old ways. Sometimes there comes a point of no return, where that's it. But is there something deeper? Is there another approach that can work? Obviously, it requires that there is true remorse and there's true regret and conscience by the person who's hurt you. Because without that, there's nothing to talk about. There's no one to work with. So you either go into the denial or you have to sever ties. But if you truly love someone and there has been a breach, is there any solution? Or we say, that's it. It's been damaged. We move on. So we have this powerful story in the Bible, in this week's chapter, the powerful, powerful story. It's a story perhaps of the ultimate relationship, the ultimate romance, and also the ultimate betrayal. Where, as the Bible tells it, God, in a sense, married the people, compared to a marriage, yes? a union, a sacred union of trust, of commitment, of promises. That's what commitment is about. And then it was seriously breached. The famous story that 39 days after Mount Sinai, the people gathered together and they built the golden calf. Perhaps made popular and famous beyond the best-selling book called the Bible by the film The Ten Commandments. Cecil B. DeMille's classic. But many of us knew it before that and continue to know it, not necessarily from that film. But some of us have seen that scene, that hedonistic celebration of essentially creating a false god, an idol, a golden calf, which can represent so many different things. It could represent worshiping gold, money, materialism, self-indulgence. But one thing is for sure, it was a betrayal of their commitment to something greater than themselves, God, something higher. But this is not necessarily a religious story. It's the story of the breach of trust, of breaking a promise. But furthermore, not just breaking it, but literally like adultery, true unfaithfulness. So you would think, that's it, the story should be over right there. And that's exactly what the Bible tells us, that God tells Moses, who was at the mountain, who was on the mountain at the time. He wasn't part of this rebellion. That, go ahead and build another nation. This nation can be trusted. Look what they did 39 days after they committed to me, after I committed to them. What does this Moses do? You'd think he'd say, listen, I wasn't involved. Okay, let me save my skin and let's move on. No, he doesn't do that at all. Goes down to the mountain. The famous story, he shatters the tablets. The two tablets of the divine mandate that he received, he shatters them. Now, many people think he was overwhelmed. He was so angry. What do you need these tablets for? And he just shatters them and breaks them. That's not the case. It was actually quite deliberate. It was very premeditated. Moses was preparing the ground for his defense, that he would present to God, defending the people. Now, there's no question he demanded accountability, and those that sinned were accountable. But he marches back up on the mountain, we're told, and he confronts God. He says, no. Yes, they did a grave thing, but I know there's a loving relationship. I know we can heal this. And God said, what do you want me to do? I didn't do anything. You put your hand in fire, it's cause and effect. Your hand gets burned. They violated. They were unfaithful. They betrayed me. What do you want me to do? So paraphrasing, I wasn't there in the conversation, but basically when you read it in the Bible, in the most intimate way, Moses will not take no for an answer. And he argues and argues. He actually spends 80 days, 40 days, and then another 40 days. So he receives the law, the Torah, the Bible in 40 days. But he receives forgiveness 80 days later. He took 80 days to gain forgiveness. And he keeps arguing. To paraphrase, he most likely says something like this: but you created cause and effect. You created the hand to get burned. I'm asking you to go back into the engine room. Let's go back. And yes, I want from you forgiveness. Because what's the point? The human race is not perfect. We'll build another nation. They too will be flawed. They too will make mistakes. They will also have setbacks and transgressions. That's how it is. That's how human beings are. I need something from you that I've never gotten, and that is hope after loss. The forgiveness after betrayal. Yes, we will do our part, and I will make sure that the people will do their remorse and their regrets, and they will do their repentance and atonement. But I need you to open up a door, a back door, not one that someone can just depend on, do whatever they want, and then say, hey, you know what, open up the door of forgiveness. No, it's going to take hard effort, but I need you to tell me that there's hope. And ultimately, this man, a human being, stood up to God himself, or itself, however you want to define God, and prevailed. It took 80 days. These are the holiest days of the year. The 80 days are the days after he shattered the tablets. 80 days later is Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the year. Why? Because it's the birth of hope, the birth of forgiveness, the birth that we have the capacity in the soul to not just go one direction and you get damaged goods, but you can reverse the past. You can repent, you can return, because love is always deeper than betrayal. But you need to work at it. It's not something you can go ahead and do whatever you want and then say love is stronger than the love conquers all. No, that's not correct. If the person who's done the sin states that can just be a cover-up. It has to be done with full, sincere, and intense integrity. So from the point of view of those that have been hurt, know this. If there's true love, you can always dig deeper. It's like a wound, like any wound, like a scar. Yes, the wound may go deep, but there's something even deeper. That's the story. And he gains it. At the end of the day, God says to Moses, in Hebrew he says, I've forgiven them as you have asked. He reveals to them the secrets. It's called the secret of the 13 divine attributes of compassion and mercy. This is the story where Moses says to God, I want to see you. I want to see your face. Love, you want to see his face. And God says, no one can see my face and live. But he still showed it to him in a certain way. By not looking, you can see me. In other words, show tremendous humility. Empty yourself of your ego and get yourself out of the way and reach a place where you can actually correct even the most horrendous sins and most horrendous breaches of trust. Was it Einstein that said, you cannot solve a problem from the same place it was created. You cannot solve a problem from the system that produced the problem. That's what Moses understood. I can't solve it from the system. I need to go beyond the system. In the human spirit, that's the place in the psyche that perhaps none of us have ever visited, but is the place you go to when you're in true distress, when there's true darkness, when there's been a true breach, when trust has been betrayed. And what can happen then? You can access powers that allow you to repair and make the relationship even stronger than ever. That's why Yom Kippur is the holiest day of the year. The birth of hope, the birth of forgiveness, the ability to go into that deepest place. That's why on that day we pray 5 prayers. There are 3 prayers said in Jewish tradition every day, the morning, afternoon, and evening prayer. On Shabbat and holidays, there are 4 prayers. There's an additional prayer after the afternoon prayer, after the morning prayer, I should say. And then on Yom Kippur, there's only once a year, 5 prayers. What does the 5th represent? Ne'ilah, that prayer we say right before the doors are sealed, before the holiday ends, before the holy day ends. And that is the prayer that corresponds with the 5th dimension of the soul. So the soul has 5 dimensions, 5 levels. They're called Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, Yechida. The Kabbalists and the Hasidic masters talk about it. What are they? They're all talk about levels of the soul. One is biological life, survival, existence. We live. The second is emotional life. The 3rd dimension is intellectual life, the cognitive. The 4th is transcendent, chaya, transcendent life, spiritual life. And the 5th is the essence, the very essence of who you are. When you're seeking to heal in a true way, not escaping, not avoiding, not minimizing or denial, or not total resignation and giving up, you dig to the deepest possible place, a place that connects the two in ways that they may never even have known had there not been a betrayal. And then when they can connect on that level, they access a force that is indestructible. Because once you access that, you're able to overcome even the greatest challenges. Now, I know for some it may not sound realistic, it's fantasy, it's nice stuff for a book, for a movie, but it happened. It happened with Moses and God in Yom Kippur, and it happened many times in life. There are people who have learned that trick, that secret, I should say. It's not a trick, it's a secret. It's the secret of the resilience, of the infinite resilience, the infatigable, the indestructible resilience of the human spirit. You see it when mothers will not give up on a child that may be very sick and even autistic. You see it when people commit to achieving something and they also will never give up. And you see it when love is so profound that even when there was a breach, work has to be done, but you can access something that's far deeper. Now, case by case, it takes two to tango. So obviously you need two people who are ready to go in that place, but don't ever think it's not possible. I don't like to use the cliche, but perhaps this cliche actually is originated from this biblical narrative. To err is human. To forgive is divine. Precisely because divine means you're accessing something that's beyond the normal, the human. Machine breaks, you get a new one. You try to fix it, but often it wore down and you have to replace it. Here, no, that's not the case. Here, it's all part of a process of deeper growth. And let's go back to the story of Moses shattering the tablets. Why did he shatter the tablets? If it wasn't anger and loss of control, it was because the tablets was the contract that God and the Jewish people committed to. And basically Moses was saying, let me tear up the contract. Because even though they heard it, but they didn't sign it, they didn't receive it yet. And that was his defense. He says they heard it, but they didn't commit to it completely. Now, Moses wasn't trying to be cute. He knew the love was deeper, and he knew he had to find every possible way to reach into the depths of the divine, of the transcendent, and even beyond the transcendent. And when he reached that place, he knew he would be successful. He did not take no for an answer. It's an amazing feat in history, a human being standing up to God and not accepting anything but a yes. And he ultimately prevailed. Yes, he did. And that's why, as I said, Yom Kippur is the holiest day of the year. He receives the second intact tablets, which in many ways represent something even greater. The first tablets were very great and divine, but they did not face the test of being broken. The second tablets came after the break and after the rebuilding. And when you rebuild something after it's broken, in many ways it's even stronger. It's like a contract that's been challenged and appealed and finally upheld time and again. Then you know it can never be broken again. So it really comes down to our faith and belief in the depths of love that we can have to each other and the ability to access it. And we do that, we're able to achieve tremendous levels of connection, greater than we can ever imagine. It's hard to do alone. That's why we needed a Moses. You need a Moses within you. You need something, an intermediary. You need someone to intercede on our behalf. Sometimes you need a mentor, an objective person from the outside. It's hard to do it yourself, but it's possible and absolutely doable. And the second lesson, which is not the focus of our discussion now, but still, Moses' sacrifice, ready to sacrifice himself. He even says, erase my name from this holy book if you don't forgive them. He put himself on the line, the true nature of a leader. Imagine we had such leaders today that don't think about they don't think about their interests, they're completely ready to forgo it for the benefit of another. So my friends, what we learn from this is the tremendous reservoirs that we have in love, in reconciliation, in hope, in forgiveness. Yes, albeit there needs to be serious work, intense introspection and soul searching. It doesn't come easily, but it's doable. We have an unbelievable, infinite capacity to heal even after great wounds and scars have been endured. So no matter what has happened in your life, know you can rebuild. Now, how to rebuild and in what fashion, that needs to be reviewed case by case. Find yourself a friend, a mentor, a soul guide, soul doctor that can help you along the way. But it's completely doable. With this, I'd like to sign off and share with you that it's always an honor to say a few words, especially about these important topics that really teach us about deeper strengths that each of us carry. Simon Jacobson here from the Meaningful Life Center, meaningfullife.com. Please comment, feedback, critique, questions. Love to hear your feedback at meaningfullife.com. You can also check it out, our website, for an array of many resources, a calendar of events throughout the week, different topics for different audiences. Please partake, take advantage of it. And please share this with anyone you see fit. This is a ripple effect that we can have throughout the entire world, where we can take this broken world and not just fix it, but reach deeper strengths in creating a much better world and reality than the one that we had when we entered this stratosphere. Be well and be blessed. Thank you so much.